2017-2018 class number 23. I'm ready, so I hope you, first of all, tonight's class I'd like to do in memory of Jay Horowitz, who actually passed away during Passover, and the funeral was today. So I'd like to do it in his memory.
Yeah, but there's also a 2-year-old girl in California. She went into a pool.
Oh,
yeah.
They have her
on a respirator?
Big
Okay.
time. I mean, it's like people are praying all over.
All right, okay. We should have a full
I
shlema.
can give you her name.
Yeah, what's her name? Yeah, the little girl in California.
Everybody's name.
Yeah, so if we could get her name, we'll study tonight. Study tonight for her full shlema that she should have a merit. Okay, so I hope you all had a wonderful Pesach and wonderful Passover, and hopefully we are truly free from all our chametz, from all our ego, and ready to march off into the sunset, right, to go serve God. So that's remember we have what's called the Omer, right, the counting of the Omer, how we count, right? we count the Omer, and the 49 days from Pesach, from the second night of Pesach to Shavuos. Shavuos, the holiday receiving the Torah, because as we mentioned before, receiving the Torah, right, and like getting free out of Egypt is something nice, but that's not really what receiving the Torah is nice. But it's really all about going ahead and really being free is nice, but if we don't get the Torah, so then at that point in time, it's, so we're free to do what we want, which is not necessarily something good. As freedom is not an intrinsic value, it's only what you do with the freedom that you have. Okay, so 3 weeks ago, so last week we didn't have class due to the Passover holiday. The Monday before, we talked about Pesach, right? And so the Monday before, 3 weeks ago, was our last class, talking about the sin of Adam and Eve in the garden, when at the end of chapter 3, on page 19, right, on page 19, chapter 3, verse number 17. Now, did we go through the 10 curses that man got?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fine. So we did, right? So we talked about the 10 curses that man got, and how he was, that he was told that from now on, right, but as sweat of the brow, he's going to eat bread, which tells us that before the sin, he did not have any sweat of his brow to eat bread.
Rabbi, where are those 10?
Where are those 10 listings?
So
those 10 things are actually they're in the oral law. If you want, I actually have a copy here, which I'm happy to give you. I have it from To Be a Jewish Woman by Lisa Aiken. She actually writes the 10 curses that woman got, and the 10 curses that man got. So again, just quickly, just to run through it, 10 curses that man got. Oh, yes.
Her name is Chaya Liat Bat Tali.
Chaya Liat Bas
Tali.
Bas Tali should have her refuah shlema.
Tali or Tal?
She should have a refuah shlema. That she get better soon. Okay, so it's on the man's 10 changes, right? Number 1, he was originally created taller than normal as a physical reflection of his spiritual greatness. His physical stature was reduced to reflect his spiritual decline. Number 2, he would feel weak when he would ejaculate. Number 3, the earth would grow thorns and brambles. Number 4, man would have anguish in earning a livelihood. 5, man was to eat the grass of the field. And when Adam heard that he and the cattle would share the same food, he pleaded to God, and his next curse was substituted for this one. Number 6, man would eat by the bread by the sweat of his brow. Number 7, Adam lost initial extraordinary beauty that God gave him. Right, the original beauty was a physical manifestation of his spiritual beauty. Number 8, the snake lost his hands and feet and can no longer serve his intended role as an effective servant for man. Number 9, Adam was banished from the Garden of Eden and lost his status as Lord and Master of the world. Number 10, men being dust will return to dust. He was destined to die and be buried. And so those are the 10 curses that man went through after he got thrown out of the Garden of Eden.
Can I take a copy of that?
Yeah, we'll make. Yeah, remind me after class. I'm happy to make copies here for everybody, and everyone
The
can.
serpent was under the man's hand. It was
Originally.
fit for the man's hand.
Man, sure. Every man had these two butlers. And that right? That we had two servants that would do whatever we wanted, needed. And then he went then, and he was sent on his way, right? Right. The snake lost his right hands and his feet, and can no longer do that.
But one question about this: did God punish man in a way that he could never ever have earnings in his life?
No. He could have money, but he would have to work for
Is
it.
there a punishment like that he says, you know what, that's the end of you, nothing good for you anymore in life?
Nothing. Okay, let me explain to you something. God is not up there saying naughty, 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 tisk, tisk, tisk. Right? You're not going to get. Right? You're not going to get. Right? I'm gonna punish you. God doesn't punish per se, and it's a very funny word when it comes to God. Okay, God, the only thing what He'll do is He'll say what He does is He will help us rectify our fault. Right? So, for example, if you take a look, right? I mean, the way I ask the questions like this: who got the worst punishment, of the snake, the man, or the woman? Who got the worst punishment?
Snake.
Right? Who really got it? Who really got it, like between the eyes, like bam? You think man? I think man. I'm absolutely. We got it terrible.
I think all that.
Right.
I think the snake.
Yeah.
So let me explain to you. The one that got the worst punishment, hands down, was the snake.
That's what I
Now, but I will tell you, even though you might ask me if he's going to eat dirt, right? So how is that bad, right? He now has an endless food supply. We'll never run out of food.
Yeah,
Right?
but he
Why
has
is
to crawl on his belly to get it.
okay? He has to crawl on his belly. That's fine. He could crawl on his belly to get it, but he has an endless food supply. Why is having an endless food supply a punishment? Right? That's a good thing.
And
That's
his
not,
minerals too.
that's not a bad thing. And the answer is that God basically said to the snake, "Here is your food supply for the rest of history. You will never need me again." Not needing God is a curse.
Yeah.
Because what happens if we don't need God? So then at that point in time, we begin to think that we are God, right? And we forget to pray to God. And we forget to work on the relationship between us and God, right? And in fact, I'll tell you something else. If a person is too materially blessed, he has to say to himself, wait a second, is God punishing me like the snake? Right? Now he's giving me all this stuff, and now he wants to see, am I getting my reward in this world? Right? Is this right? Is this not good for me? Right? What happens is the snake, right? So the snake got the worst punishment. Man and woman, what happened to man and woman? They forgot about God. Right? That's really what happened. They forgot about God. So what did God do? God said, I'll make it. You'll never be able to forget about me again. How did he do that? He said, "You'll need me." He said, right? So he said, "Woman, I'm going to make it that every time you see your kids, you're going to go, oy vey." Right? You're going to go ahead. Right? You're going to go ahead and you're going to say, "God, please help me." Every time a man goes out to work the field, he's going to say, "Oh God, please help me." Right? Right? Help me. Right? Help me make sure that my plow won't break. Help me make it right that it won't be too hot or too cold. Right? All these things that that man goes about doing. Right? He's going to go ahead. He's going to get to a place of where we need God even more, and we won't forget about God. So, to me, hands down, the worst punishment was to the snake because he doesn't need God anymore. Right? And the man and woman both got the punishments in the areas where that will always help them remember that they need God.
In that case, do I have to always ask God for what I need?
Do you always need to?
We all need. However you look at it, there's always a need.
Absolutely. So very good. So somebody said to me, "Rabbi, I hate bothering God for the small stuff." That's what I said to me. I said, "Rabbi, see, no, thank God my business is going well. I don't want to bother God. I feel bad asking God for all this stuff. Like, I don't want to bother God." Right?
You want to
Right?
bother
So
God.
I said, "You're making a mistake." I said, "Do your parents feel bad when you call them every day? Or do they feel bad when you don't call them?" Right? God wants to hear us. Why? Because the more that we talk to God, the more we recognize that we need God. The more we recognize we need God, the more it keeps us focused, right, on that straight up on God.
So how do you tap into that?
So the way you do it is like this. So what happens? So you take a look. Actually, the way
But
God.
I need $1 million. Say, God, please give me $1 million.
Right. So I'll explain to you. So the way it's structured. Okay, if you take a look, the way God structured the world. So what do he say? He said, okay, men, you have to pray 3 times a day, a minimum of 3 times a day. Okay, why? When you wake up in the morning, I want you to pray because I want to get your head focused on what you need and what you're asking me for. Then you have to pray in the afternoon, right? You have to pray by mincha time. Because what does that do when you pray in the afternoon? It makes it, you check in during the day, making sure that you're still headed in the right direction. And then you pray at night. Why do you pray at night? Because you say, okay, God, like let's do a quick review of the day, right? Like let's take a look at how the day went, and did I use it as a day to come closer to God, or a day to go further away from God, right? And that's really what happens. What happens is that you're supposed to go ahead and say, did I use my day properly, right? Did I use it properly? Now on top of that, God gave us another freebie, and that is when we need God, we're commanded to pray. You get, right? There's a Torah commandment when you are in pain to turn to God and to pray to Him, right? And that's what I'm. But the way the prayer is structured is that we have a very structured when you wake up, in the afternoon, and the evening. Now, women, right? Women have it a little different. Women don't have these 3 structured times to pray. Women are supposed to try to pray twice a day, okay? Twice a day. Why don't women have these same structure that they have to pray these 3 times a day? Because as my wife says, she said, she really doesn't like us women. I said, really? I said, why not? He said, well, when it comes time to dress the kids and send them off to school, you have to go to prayers to pray the morning service. When it comes time for bath time and bedtime, she said, you're praying again. So every time I need you, you're supposed to be in prayers, right? And so the answer is that taking care of a child, right? Taking care of children is not a structured, right, time that you can structure prayer around. So God says, do your best, shoot for 2 times a day, right? And if not, right, you can pray to me while you're, running after the kid, going to grab the kid. You go ahead and you pray. I think my wife for many years, thank God we have 8 kids. So, when they were little, if she could pray once a month, she was doing good, right? Because, right, I mean, she was praying all day, God, don't let me kill this kid when they catch him. But besides that, right, he's sitting there, right, going into standing and to pray to God. It doesn't happen, right? So now my kids are getting older, so now all of a sudden her time is a little easier to manage. So now she's kind of able to try to do that a bit more. Right, but that's really what happens. My mother, right? So she's now a grandmother, even a great grandmother. She's always a great grandmother, but great rather. Okay. So right, so she's a grandmother. So then at that point in time, right? So what does she do? She goes ahead and she, right? So she has more time to pray, right? So so then it becomes more of a focus for her, right? But you can't command something. God, you'll see, will never command something that it's impossible to do. And so therefore, since men and women generally have two different types of jobs to do, so then at that point in time, of course, it needs to be, right, they have different responsibilities. And so therefore, God sets it up in a way to help us focus on remembering to talk to God. Right? It's a very, I mean, if you being used properly, it's one of the greatest ways to create a relationship with God. Right? Because you're going ahead and what are you doing? You're setting up your day, right, to be focused around God.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
what is a perfect life?
What's a perfect life? A perfect life is a life focused on creating a relationship with God.
How about money? How about this? How about that?
Okay, I want to tell you something. Listen to me very, very carefully. I had this interesting insight that I want to share with you. Okay, interesting insight. I have a lady who is okay. She's a grandmother, and she's living in a house, and she needs to sell her house. Right? She can't afford to live in a house. It's too big. She needs to downsize. And so I put her in touch with the lawyer to help work this out. And what happens is, she says to the lawyer, I really can't move because I have 50 years of stuff in this house. And she says, and I am going to move into a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom. She's saying, what do I have to get rid of most of my stuff. I have to get rid of most of my life. So the lawyer calls me up. And the lawyer says, Rabbi, you really have to help her out. She really needs to get rid of stuff. Because she can't fit into a 1 or 2 bedroom with all her stuff. She has 50 years of life, stuff stored in the house. Right? And she ain't taking it with her. And all of a sudden I had this like epiphany. And I said, isn't this amazing? I said, because then go to somebody else who's moving from 1 or 2 bedrooms, she's moving into an assisted living. Now in assisted living, you get 1 room for your entire life.
Yep.
Right? And so you got to get rid of all your stuff. A 1 or 2 bedroom, you no longer can store it. You need now put it down into 1 bedroom.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, you have 1 dresser.
Yeah.
Right? And 1 closet where you put all the stuff that you need for your life. And I thought to myself, I said, isn't this an amazing idea? We spend our entire life going around, running around, and getting things. And then God sends us the message. Those things are meaningless. Because you ain't taking them with you. Not only are you not taking them with you, you have to jetson them. I'm helping you remember that it's not about the things. Because I'm making you jetson them on the way. Because by the time you're dead, I promise you, there's no room in the coffin for anything. Right? Nothing is going. We laugh when we think about in the olden days, they used to bury the kings with the chariots and all his weapons and all killing million slaves and sticking them into the burial place where he's buried, right? And I began thinking to myself, I said, right? We think of that, we laugh. Why do we laugh? Because we said this is the most ridiculous thing in the world. It's absurd. We know we're taking nothing with us, and yet we spend the most, right, except the only thing we take with us are our good deeds. Right? The only things we take with us are the things we give away. Right? That's the irony of ironies. The only thing we take with us are the things that we give away.
But how about comforts?
Okay, good. So hold on. So certainly, okay, so first of all, we can all agree that there's nothing that you're taking with you.
Right.
Except what you give away. Right? It's funny, Rothschild, a very, very wealthy man, once said to his accountant, he says, bring me how much I'm worth. And this accountant came with all the books, of all the records of all the assets that he owns. And he said to his accountant, he said, put those books away. That's not what I'm worth. He says, that might be what I have. He says, when I told you to bring me the things what I'm worth, I meant to bring me my books on how much charity I gave. Because that's my worth. That I'll always have, and that I'll always take with me. I actually kind of tell people, you send it ahead. Right? And I said, what you're worth is what you give away. What you keep, you don't take. I mean, that's one of the greatest ironies of life. Right? And by the way, nobody will disagree with me. Right? Nobody will disagree. I'd have Warren Buffett sitting in this room. He will agree with me. He's not taking his money with him. Right? And yet, how hard is it for people, and he's a man who knows money and appreciates money, by the way, right? And yet, right, at the same time, what happens? Right, you go ahead, you're not taking it with you, and yet, how much time do we spend gathering it and keeping it when it ain't going? And it's one of the mysteries of life. How something that is so, right, this is a simple idea I'm sharing with you. This is not an earth-shattering idea, right? This is not a very complicated idea. We all know this. And at the end of the day, we know that this is exactly what's happening. And yet somehow we can't bear to separate ourselves. And I find it just fascinating. From a human sociological standpoint, put on my doctor hat, right? I find it truly amazing. I find it something that I find it's just, to me, it's one of the most incredible blindnesses that we have as people, right? And so it becomes it's a place of where somehow we get hoodwinked into this, and we can't do it. Not so about comforts. Okay, so we like comfort. You know what the worst thing in the world is?
Pain.
No, comfort. I once had a guy walk into my office. The guy was a millionaire many times over. Ran his own hedge fund. And he comes to my office and says, Rabbi, I'm not sure why I'm here. He says, I'm worth $50 million, $100 million. I have a beautiful wife, beautiful life, beautiful kids. I'm so comfortable. He says, Rabbi, why am I here? So I said, you know what the worst word in the English language is? I said, it's comfort. Because when we're comfortable,
We're away from God.
no, not we're away from God, but we don't have the impetus to grow. It means when we think life is all about being comfortable, right? We say, so why should I shake anything up? I'm comfortable, right? Why should I do anything? Why should I change? Why should I grow? Everything is just so comfortable. And you should know, by definition, you know what the definition of life is? To grow. And how do we know that? What's the difference between a live tree and a dead tree?
Cannot grow.
A dead tree doesn't grow. What's the difference between a live lobster and a dead lobster?
Dinner.
Dinner. For who? Right? It's that happens. One of the things I kind of just wonder. Right? The crab is like a cockroach of the sea,
Right.
and shrimp, and yet people want to eat those cockroaches all day and all night. And if I give them a different cockroach and that runs around the earth, right, you'll be disgusted by it. Yet we want to eat the cockroaches of the sea. So I find that kind of quite interesting. But I tell people anything that you put a pound of butter on will taste good. I said a pound of butter will make anything taste good. So it just kind of just fascinating, right? On how, right, a lobster has to grow. You should know a lobster has no natural enemy. Why? Has a shell. It has an armor-plated shell, right? And so when is the only time that a lobster is vulnerable?
When it gets too close to the steam.
Well, people catching it, right? Besides humans, right? When does a lobster get in trouble?
In the ocean.
In the ocean, it's only when he begins to what's called molt,
Right.
or when he goes through the molting process.
Right.
The molting process is quite a fascinating process. You see, one of the great things about life, for Mr. Lobster, is that Mr. Lobster carries with him, he's an armor-plated animal. So therefore, for animals, they can't eat it. Except when sometimes, what happens is that as the lobster grows, right, he begins pushing up against his shell, and the shell becomes tighter and tighter. And finally, at some point in time, the lobster sheds his shell, and he has underneath it a soft shell that takes, I think, a few hours to harden.
Mm.
And during those few hours, when his shell is shed, that's when he becomes vulnerable. And that's when he becomes vulnerable to an attack. And so what he does is he swallows a lot of water. He swells up, right, stretching out the soft shell. Then, after a couple hours and the shell is hard, he spits out the water, right, and he shrinks down to normal size. And all of a sudden now he now has enough room to grow until he has to grow again. He has to molt. So there's one very simple question you have to ask. Why does Mr. Lobster have to grow? Let Mr. Lobster go ahead and be, let him be the way he is, right? Let him be with his armor-plated shell, and let him just walk around, right? Just being armor-plated. Why does he have to grow? And the answer is one very simple answer. Definition of life is growth. And if you want life, you have to grow. Comfort is antithesis to growth. Okay? It will stop you from growing because it's saying, I'm comfortable, right? Because why do I have to grow? And by the way, you see it in life all the time. You ever heard of golden handcuffs?
What?
Golden handcuffs?
Handcuffs?
Yeah, golden handcuffs.
Okay.
What does that mean? It means you have enough money that you really don't need to work. If you live frugally, you'll be okay. You really can't take any risk because that would be
That would be infringement on money.
that would be risky for no reason, right? And because you kind of have enough, and so you're stuck in this pattern of sort of living out life, attached to this, right? We call golden handcuff.
Retirement.
You have to be careful that your retirement doesn't become your golden handcuffs,
Right.
right? Because retirement is a false idea, right? Because what does retirement say? Retirement says I don't have to work
You
anymore.
stop and play.
Right? Now let me ask you a question. Did God create you so that you should stop and play?
No.
Right? So the whole fantasy of retirement is a false idea. Right? Why did God create us? To work. Right? You know what? Just look at the ant. Right? Okay, the ant teaches us that our job in this world is to work. And an ant is born, he works until the day he dies, and that's over. Right? Man is born to work, except work in what? Right? What do we say work? What's the Hebrew word for work? Avodah. Where's the first place that avodah appears?
Genesis.
In the Genesis. Where in Genesis? When man was put in the Garden of Eden to work. And guess what, folks? The Garden of Eden, man did not need to go to work. What we call going to work. Right? What was man's work in the Garden of Eden? Spiritual. He was here to pray. Right? Life was the idea of going ahead and of praying.
But Adam never prayed.
Are you sure he did?
He did?
Sure.
First 7 days?
Yeah, sure. And that was what he was there for. Right? And so therefore, comfort, retirement, all the things that you're all happy and couldn't wait to get to are really just false ideologies. Right? They're all false ideas. Right? Because we're missing the boat. Our point in life is to work, doing what? Serving God. That's our job in life. Right? And so that's what we need to do. Now, so you might say, well, I don't have to do what the world calls work any longer. So great. So what does that mean then? What can you do? Now you can go ahead, right? Because the Torah, God says to man, you have to work by the sweat of your brow. Fantastic. Okay, so what's your job now to do? Learn Torah, right? Right. So now, right, to do really what you were created for. Before you had the distraction of working, i.e., working, right? What the world calls work, earning a livelihood. Now you no longer have that distraction. Now you just go straight. Now you have really what the world is about.
Now let's look at the other picture.
Yeah.
There are people who are very static and they make yeshivas and they put their money and they put thousands of dollars.
Right.
They do this, they do that.
Right.
They're also working. What happens to them?
Also, because what's their working? Their work is teaching Torah. That's what the world is all about. Right? That's exactly why we're here. Right? To go ahead and to do that. Right? So they're lucky enough to spend their days in godly pursuits.
You mean when we walk, it's not to be greedy and keep it written, but we work together in order to move the God commission.
In order to get closer to God.
Right.
Okay, in order to get closer to God. Right? That's why we're supposed to work. Right? And we're supposed to use what we get in order to get closer to God. If we don't, then thank God He doesn't make us financially successful, because for many people that would take them away from God.
So should I take the shirt off and stay here and start working?
Now keep the shirt on, and then so the answer is but
No,
stay.
because that's what we were studying in Shabbat with the Rabbi. Says God, beginning beginning of the year will tell you exactly how much you're supposed to earn.
How much money are you going to make?
Okay, so whether you do work or you don't, you still gotta get that
Incorrect.
much
Incorrect. When God decides at the beginning of the year, in Rosh Hashanah, He decides how much money you're going to make. If you stay at home, you will not get that money.
money. So you
Period.
need to work, you're not a man. You're supposed
You have to go to work. That's part of our curse. That's part of our job.
And
Right?
if you do extras, it gives you extras too.
Right, based on the effort we put in. Right? Now you can say, well, then I'm going to work 24/7, right? Because then, I'll work in Shabbat, I'll throw out everything else and I'll make more money. That's incorrect.
Right.
Right? It means a person needs to do what is the normal amount of time for his profession. When a person can work on the normal time of their profession, so then at that point in time, that's the place where that's what he needs to do. Right? That's our job. Our job is to go ahead and to work, right? The normal amount of our profession, and understand that God is the one who decides, not anybody else. And that's what that means. And so you have to put in your time and your effort. And make sure you don't put in too much time, right? Because then at that point in time, then you're saying it's up to me, it's not up to God. And that would be denying God. That's a trap that we fall into. Right? And so we have to do what we call what's the normal effort. And then after we have that normal effort, that's what we're supposed to do, and that's what we get. Okay, but don't ever, comfort is not a good thing. Right? Now we'd like to be comfortable on our journey, so as long as we remember to keep on turning to God on that journey, so then we're doing okay. Right? If we go ahead and we then forget about God, so then it's a terrible thing. Right? Then it's not helpful, then it becomes a hindrance, which is exactly what happened to man in the garden. He had everything he needed to sit and to pray to God, right? And to create a relationship and to study Torah all day. Everything. And he had two helpers, right? They would just bring him whatever he needed, he had. And what did he do?
He blew it.
He blew it. Right? He ate for God said, just don't eat from that tree. And what does he say? No, that's the tree I want. Right? That's what he did. Right? And so what did God say? So God said, so all the stuff that I'm giving you is not good. Because now instead of helping you come closer to me, it's taking you further away from me. He says, I'm going to just take it away. Right? That's exactly what happens. Right? And that's what we have to be so careful of. Right? So if we understand the paradigm and how it works, then we could function.
Okay, but the rabbi doesn't work. Rabbi teaches, so
Right?
what is his status?
You have to work and keep it.
No. So what's the rabbi's status? So the rabbi has to teach Torah. That's his responsibility. That's his job. Right? And what's our job?
No, to work.
Listen.
And to make sure to learn.
But how is he going to earn income?
So whose job is it to help the rabbi provide the income? And people why?
Because
So
we
he
love
can
him.
continue.
What?
So we can continue.
But why did God give you money?
So we can share it.
right. I'm going to tell you something. I want to
So
explain.
he's sharing, basically.
Not share it. Let me ask you a question.
To do this?
What?
To do this?
To do tshuva?
Yeah.
Tshuva is repentance, return to God. It's very simple like this. You should know. God gives us money, right? We said God decides how much money we make. We go out and we do the work, right? To collect the money. Do you know that God gives us 10 to 20% extra? That we're supposed to be, that we could be the big heroes and donate to charity? Do you know that God does that? Whatever you make, you should understand that the top 10 to 20% is not yours. It was given to you by God to give away.
Is it written?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. All through Torah.
And it's written. It's probably like 10 places in the Torah. 10. And not only 10. I'll even show it to you in just a very simple way. Okay, the simple way I use it is when let's just use because they were an agricultural society, right?
Right.
Okay.
Tenth of the crop.
So so hold on, not a tenth of the crop. You get 100 bushels. Let's just use 100 bushels. What do you do? What do you do with the 100 bushels? What's the first thing you have to give?
The 10th.
The first.
No.
First fruits.
No. Oh, okay. Right. Even the first fruits. Right. Even the field. Right. But again, you first collect the field. Let's call it a wheat field. Right. First thing you have to do is when you actually collect, when you actually harvest the wheat field, if you drop 1 or 2 grains, it belongs to the poor person. Right. And then not only that, when you always have to leave a corner of the field for the poor. Right. So that's off the top. You've left a corner of the field for the poor. So your 100 bushels is after you've already left a corner of the field for the poor. Right? Okay, now, and Todd, do you remember what percentages pay up?
Well, it depends.
Maybe Drabanan.
Drabanan's 60th.
60th, okay. Good. 2% of your field, right, or 1.66%, you have to leave out in the field. So that's the first 2% off the top. You now have 100 bushels. 100 bushels. Now, what do you have to do what's the first thing to do with your 100 bushels? You have to give 2% to the Kohen, to the priest. Okay? That's Truma. Right? 2%. So how many bushels are you left with?
96.
98. Well, no, because we're saying the 100.
Send you to the
The
corner
100
and
right.
live.
But the 100 is after the 2% you left. Right? I'm saying the 100 is after you left the corner of the field. So you left 100. So it's really 102. You leave 2. You leave 2 in the field. Okay. Now you give 2. You give 2% to the Kohen. Okay. What do you do after you give 2% to the Kohen?
Because they're doing the God work.
You have to give Meiser Rishon. You have to tithe now for the Levites. How much you have to give to the Levites? 10%. Ma'aseh, right? Ma'aseh Rishon. Right? That's the first tithing. So 10%. So how much do you give to the? How much do you give to the? How much do you give now to the Levites? 9.8%. Excellent. So 9.8. So now you're left with how much? 98 minus 9.8 is 88.2%. Okay? But so far, how much have you given away? 9.8 plus 2 plus 2. Right? So what are we up to? 10, 11, 12, 13.8% you've given away. But now, hold on. Now you have Meiser Sheni. What's Meiser Sheni? Meiser Sheni is the second 10%, which actually belongs to you, but is meant for you to eat. You can only eat it in Jerusalem. Now, eating 10% of your income in Jerusalem is a tough deal, right? You can't eat so much. So why does God make it that you give Meiser Sheni? Right? Is that because He wants every family should have one person in the family who sits and studies Torah in Jerusalem. And so really, your Meiser Sheni really is supposed to give to him. So that's another, now we're at 88.2, so how much you have to give to Meiser Sheni? Another 8.82% off of your 88.2. Right, so now you're at 79.4, somewhere around that. Okay. Now, we're not done yet. What happens when you take the wheat and you turn it and you break bread? What do you have to do? You have to separate challah. Right? How much do you have to separate challah? How much is challah?
Small portion.
Yeah, small portion, like 4%.
4%.
4%, 1/24. Right, to do 4%. So now we're down to around 75. Okay, so then you can eat the rest. So how much have you given away? 25%. But again, some of it you get to eat in Jerusalem. So call it 20%, whatever it is. And remember, the 2% you left in the field, right, is 27%. Right, but it's the 7 out of 10% of Meiser Sheni you eat. And it's roughly, you see clearly, right? That's all spelled out clearly that's what you give off what you make in the field. Right? And that those numbers are very just a simple look at it. It actually just goes in and it just lays right out that's how much we're doing. That's how much we're giving away.
And that's even without the IRS.
That's right. You see, but I want to tell you something. Even the IRS understands about giving you charity. Right? They're willing to let you write it off your taxes.
Not anymore.
Right. Yeah, right. You know, it took them to 2018 to figure this out, right? So it's not bad. But even Pharaoh, I mean, the Torah says even Pharaoh, right? Even Pharaoh, the guy who's the poster boy for physicality, understands that you have to take care of the priests, the rabbis. That just happened to be fascinating, right? Is that God gives us the tools. And God gives us the tools and gives us the money to be able to do right? When somebody gives money, say to a poor person, right? Let's say just a poor person, who's doing who the favor? Who's doing who the favor? So the way we think about it is we think, oh, we're doing the poor person a favor. We're such good people. Oh, we're tzaddikim. Oh, gewaldig, right? What a great person, right? We're going ahead and we're giving charity. I'm a good person, right? And that's what we think. Can I ask you a question? What did you give away? You gave away cash,
God's money.
right? What did you get in return of that cash?
A
You have a
receipt.
credit in.
Feel good about what you did.
What? Okay, it's a good thing how do you feel. But that's tiny.
Get him in the mitzvah.
You got eternity. You just bought eternity. Right? Is that what happened? You just bought eternity.
Without them, you could.
Right? Right? You following? You bought eternity. Do you know how much eternity costs?
We don't have that money.
It's priceless, right? But what you did was, right, you bought eternity. Who's doing who the favor? If the poor person wasn't here, what would happen?
You have all that money for yourself.
You have all the money. Ah, that's great. And so when you die, you'll have a bigger bank account. Oh, terrific, wonderful. And there's a great Yiddish expression. I'll let my father say it because how do you say how many chickens can one man eat?
Little chickens can
And right, wiffle chickens have men essen. How many can men essen? How many chickens can one man eat? Right, do you know what I'm saying? Right. There comes a point, right? And so what happens is that we go ahead and we miss the boat, right? And like that's the sad part, right? We know we're not taking it with us. We know why we have it, and yet how hard is it for us to give it away? Very hard, right. It's there's a great story. There was once these two rabbis are going around collecting for somebody who was kidnapped, okay. And so they come to the miser of the town. They need to raise 10,000 rubles.
I got that in the story.
I got the same story. Listen. So he goes ahead, and then he goes ahead, and they come to the miser, and the miser is visibly moved. So he says, I'm going to help you guys. So they said, okay. So he says, okay. He says he pulls out a treasure chest from underneath his. They said they need 10,000 rubles. He pulls out from underneath his table, pulls out a treasure chest. Gilded treasure chest with a rusty lock on it. Hasn't been used in a while. And he goes ahead and he takes a key and he kind of creaks it open. And he turns around and he gives them a rusty penny. And so one rabbi is ready to throw it in the guy's face. The other rabbi says, thank you so much. It's such a big mitzvah you've done. It's just amazing. And they walk out. They're walking down. They're walking down. And then they're at the end of the walkway. All of a sudden, the door opens up, and the servant says, "Come back in. My master wants to give you something more." So they come back, and this time he does the same thing. He pulls out, he opens it up, and he gives them a shiny penny. And again, like they're saying, it's like the whole thing's a joke, right? One rabbi wants to throw it back to the guy and says, "Thank you so much. It's amazing. It's terrific what you've done. You're just really fantastic." Right? They walk out. This time they make it halfway down. The servant opens the door and says, "Come back. My master wants to open you." They come back. He gives them a nickel, a quarter, a dime. This goes on. Till finally they get the entire amount. They walk away. They go ahead and they go ahead and they save this person from being wrongly jailed. So one rabbi turned to the other rabbi and says, "I don't understand." He said, "How did you know that this miser would give us the money? I would have slapped the guy and walked out after the first time, throwing it back in his face. We need 10,000 rubles. Give me a penny." He says, "Let me tell you something." He says, "When it comes to giving charity, you have to exercise that muscle. And if you don't exercise that muscle, he says you can't do it." He says this person was not capable of giving the full amount. It was incapable. It was a muscle that he hadn't used. His full capacity was to give one rusty penny. right? And then by the time he finished exercising that muscle, so then he could do a little bit more. So then he go up to the shiner, and then as he exercised it, it became stronger, right? And it's really something that, right? We live in a world that's really the world is such a mirage, and the sad part is we know it's a mirage, and yet we still get suckered in by it, right? And we let it control us rather than controlling, right? Rather than us controlling it. Right? Man was in the Garden of Eden. He had everything. He had everything a man can ever want. He had nothing to do, and he could sit and he could study Torah all day. All he had to do was don't eat from that one tree. And what does man do? He blows it. He eats from that one tree. Right? You understand? You understand like how it goes on? Right? The whole thing is so sad. And we look back at Adam. Let's be real. We look back at Adam, and what do we think about Adam? How could he make such a silly mistake? Right? That right? I don't know about you guys. God gave him everything. He said you can eat from every single stinking tree in his garden, each one more beautiful than the next. Just don't touch that one tree. For a day. If you don't eat from that tree till nightfall was going to be Shabbat, he was going to be able to eat from that tree. And what does man do? He's incapable of not eating from that tree.
I don't see it like that. I'm seeing him as the perfect husband. His wife, really.
Yeah, good. Right, but that was his choice. He ate it not because his wife fed it to him. He ate it because he made that choice.
Can I make a statement?
Yeah.
So I think one of the best gifts a man can have is patience.
Sure.
He only needed patience. That's all he needed.
That's right. And right, I mean that's and this right. I mean, you look at it. You look at the story. The story is such an amazing story.
So they would be able to eat from these trees if they would wait. So it was forbidden till the time, till the right time.
Yeah.
So if they would wait, they could eat from these trees.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So it wasn't forbidden. It was forbidden for the time.
At that moment.
At that moment.
Right? You understand, right? You understand how it works. And the whole thing is just something that is so crazy. And the sad part is, we look at the story, we realize how crazy it is, and we forget that we're that man.
So
We're that woman. Right? And we're repeating the same mistake.
Did Adam know his responsibility to the world?
Absolutely. That's
He spoke to God face to face?
he spoke to God. Again, he spoke to God as a prophet. He heard God. God spoke to him.
Who's closer to God, Adam or Moses?
Moses' level of prophecy is the greatest of everybody. That's why Moses is called the father of all prophets.
The clarity was so.
No, the clarity, right? The clarity is it. But Adam was God, and he's one of the prophets.
No one arose again.
Like Moses, right? But you understand? I'm just trying to explain. I mean, that's the story we're right. That's the story we're reading, and we can't and we know it, right? Can anyone disagree with what we said here?
You would think that Adam would be the closest
You
to God
right.
because he created him.
Right. But everything I'm saying here is self-explanatory, and he's not rocket scientist, right? And yet we do the exact same thing, time and time and time again.
Why would you say that Moses is closer to God than Adam? Adam
Because
was
God
his
said
child.
God said he was closer.
God said.
It's a verse in the Torah. I said, what can I tell you?
Yeah.
Black and white.
You would think that Adam, because he
Right?
was
There never arose another prophet in Moses like Israel.
But his
Right?
Adam was first man. So
Correct. First man, great man, phenomenal, incredible, beautiful, wow, amazing, terrific, stupendous. But not Moses. By the way, there's a simple reason why, by the way. Because Moses was given the Torah at Mount Sinai.
Right.
See, once you have the Torah, we become a different person. Right? I mean, but that's the message from the story. Right? This lays out exactly what's going to happen in the world. And if we use it correctly, you can become the greatest people. If we close our eyes and don't look at it, it becomes terrible.
We all have that capability.
We all, yes, we do. We have to remind ourselves again and again, right? To make sure that we don't get suckered in, right? Don't get pulled into, right? The lure of the mirage of what the world sells. In fact, it's quite fascinating. You know, God made it so easy for us. You know how you say world in Hebrew? Olam. You know what the word olam means? What's the word olam? What's the root? And very good. Ne'elam, hidden.
Hidden.
You know what God calls the world? Hidden. You know why? Because the world is a mask to hide us and keep us away from God. And what's our job?
To search him.
To poke through the mask and to find God. Right? That's what our job is. Right? Everything I'm telling you, it's like black and white. Right? And we get suckered in.
Yeah, well, we blame the society we're living.
Very good. We blame the society, and who did Adam blame?
His wife.
And who did his wife blame?
The
The
snake.
snake. So didn't Adam blame society? Didn't everyone blame society? You know, right? That what we're doing. We're doing exact. It's actually it's fun. I mean, it would be funny if it wouldn't be so sad, right? Is that what? Is that at that point in time, right? It would be. It's exactly what Adam does. We're doing exactly what Adam is doing. And when we read the story about Adam, we could look at it. I look at it and I go, I don't get it. You're created by God. God's speaking to you. You're a prophet. You're a prophet. And yet,
You couldn't wait a few hours.
yeah, it's like this. The story is one of the crazy stories.
Yeah, it's
the
really-
pasuk in Kollel says, "Ma'im genu yimtaku." Ma'im genu yimtaku. They'll stolen wine to sweeter. But
Right.
you can't have. That's what you want.
Right?
But
Right?
it's still
You could have anything, but you couldn't have that. Oh, that's what I want.
Right.
It's like a 2-year-old.
Right. Isn't it amazing? It's with 2-year-olds. Right? And when our 2-year-old does it, what do we tell our 2-year-old? Grow up! And when we do it, what do we say? Oh, we're smart. We know what we're doing. Right? That's exactly. It's almost comical if it wouldn't be so sad. But that's what we're doing, right? We're going ahead and we're selling ourselves short. And if it wasn't our own necks that we were putting into the noose, it would be funny, right? But that's what that's what we're doing, right? We're killing ourselves. Just amazing. I find it just truly amazing. And you know why? Because I do the same thing, right? It's funny, and I know it. And yet I have the same exact feeling.
So Adam was the first man to use the free will in the wrong way.
No, woman was.
Woman and then
Man was number 2, right behind her.
Right behind.
But right, for a different reason. Right, they had different reasons why they came to it. But that absolutely. Yeah.
If you look at the story of Esther, Esther by Torah, the Gemara says, Esther ben Torah minai. This is not my, I've heard this before, so it's not my, I heard it from Rabbi Wen, but I think it's too good of chance that he grew up with it from someone else. I think he did. But here's what it is. It says, the Gemara says, Esther ben Torah minai. Where do we have a hint of Esther in the Torah? So it's a very simple answer. So the Gemara gives an answer. The pasuk says, "Bani aster panu." I will hide my face. So that's makes a lot of sense because the Purim, God was there. Everybody understood that was God pulling this string, but He did it in a way. Oh, it just happened, right? It just happened, and she became queen. It just happened. that Ahasuerus killed Vashti. It just so happened that they wanted to kill the Jewish people, and it was just so happened that that everybody knew that was really God pulling the strings.
And yet his name is never mentioned in the chapter.
Because it's
Because
hidden.
he's in
There's
it.
no great
Exactly.
miracles like we had by Egypt or by any of those places. Then the Gemara says something which is very, very. I always had a question on it. This was the question. The Gemara said Haman min Torah minai. Where is there some allusion to Haman in the Torah? So the Gemara says Hamin ha'etz. Is it from this tree that you ate? Why? Because the letters are the same. Hey, mem, nun. Hamin is hey, mem, nun, which is the letters of Haman. No. There's a concept being told here. What was Haman about? And this is what the rabbis been talking about all the time. What does Haman say? Haman was a man who was number 2 man in the whole world. He really ran it more than Ahasuerus. Haman was a man who was exceedingly wealthy. Haman was a man who was a successful person, who had a successful marriage. He had a successful family, and everybody's successful, right? And not only that, that every man bowed down to him. And what happened? But one man did not bow down to him. What does he come home and say? V'chol zeh eino shova li. This is worth to me nothing. Where is there a remnant in the Torah? Where is there a hint in the Torah? Oh, there was a person who could eat from every tree. But one tree he couldn't eat from. Oh, that's what happened here to Haman. Everybody bowed down to him, and that's worth to him nothing. Because that he has. What he doesn't have, that's what he wants.
What I find interesting about the rabbi's
My father, yeah.
story is that, since Adam's creation, has been 5,777.
8.
Life goes on. There's stories, billions of stories out there, much maybe even higher than that. But we only use one standpoint from the Torah to clear all our questions. That's what interests me.
Right,
Interesting part of
the
whole Torah and all this story. I mean, there's billions of Torah.
You should know there's a very fascinating insight. The Torah is the story of mankind, right? It's not man's work on God; it's God's work on man, right? The Torah is not a religion that we wrote it to understand God. The Torah is anthropology. It's God's look on man, right? And man, we think how sophisticated that we have become, right? We are just the same. We have the same egos, the same desires, the same wants, the same needs. A little more sophisticated. The Talmud uses an expression, right? They said there were 2 great nations, Rabbi and Antoninus. And it said, how rich were they? So the Talmud uses the expression, you know how rich they were? They had radishes in the winter. Right? That's how rich they were. They had radishes in the winter. Right? And we look at that, and to me, always, as a kid, I could never, it always was like a joke. Radishes in the winter, that's a big deal. I don't like radishes. Radishes in the winter, that's what it's all about. Right? The answer was for them. So that was, right? That was their pinnacle of achievement or of wealth. So our pinnacle of wealth now is different, right? What is it? Whatever it is, whatever status symbols we think it is. But it's all the same narishkeit, and it's all the same. It's all the same things that were not taken with us. I promise you, you're not taking it with you. Okay, it ain't going with you. Right? There's not right. Nobody, and nobody's under the illusion that we are.
So why do I think twice when I want to give charity? I'm sorry.
I'm going to tell you exactly why.
Billions of people are like me.
Absolutely, billions and billions and billions. Right? 7 billion people in the world, so there are billions and 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 billions. Right? Right? We all think like that, right? You know why? Because we look at ourselves, right? We're caught up in what's called the world. There are great righteous people that don't. Right? There's the great righteous people that don't.
Even they give everything they have before they
Yeah, there's a famous story.
You're not supposed to give that.
Remember, there's a famous story.
If you're going to give more, that's going to mean that you're going to have to
Take charity.
Take charity, and that's a bad thing to do.
Right.
So there is a borderline.
Yeah, no, sure, yeah.
Rabbi, can you
N-
say
n-
that
so-
again, please?
Yeah, if you give something, if you give so much, so that you now have to ask for charity, you're doing a sin, not a good thing.
Right. If you give everything away, right, so that you need to take charity.
So you have to,
But-
to
But
live
that, goes
enough
back,
for
but
yourself.
that goes back to comfort again.
So very good. Okay, so let me ask you a question. How much do we sacrifice for our kids? Everything we have, right?
To the kidney.
Right. We give, right?
Sorry, no. Is it true?
Right, sure, absolutely, right? That's we give away everything, right? Whatever we can do. How much would we give away for ourselves?
Nothing.
Right? Right. Some, right? But what happens is we've gotten so pulled in by the world, right? We got so pulled in by the world that we forget to realize what we're getting. Let me ask you a question. Let's take him and say, guys, guess what? I got the best business deal. Tomorrow it's going to double. You got to give me the money now. I guarantee you, tomorrow your money is going to be double. And money back guaranteed. Warren Buffett standing here saying, folks, I'm guaranteeing your money is doubled. If not, I will pay you double. But I need your money right now.
You give whatever you have, all of it.
Already was a guy like this.
What?
There was already a guy like this sitting in the jail.
I agree with you.
Right. But right. Let's say you had that. Let's say you had that.
You give the money?
How much money would you give?
Whatever you have.
Whatever you have. You borrow money,
You go all in.
right? You're all in. All in.
Or you're a skeptic and you say, if it's
Man, too good to be true. Right.
Too good to be
So I told you, so we have, okay, Scott is the accountant on the job, right? Financial money. He says, no. He says, the rabbi's saying it's true. I know the deal. I have Warren Buffett's
I would
money.
give what you have, because you said you'll double it guaranteed.
Right.
I would want to see your bank.
Of course, absolutely. I'll give my 2 cents. Right? I guess if I put in debt, does it double? Because like 2 negatives make a positive, right? So to go ahead, right, and to go ahead and to do it, right? Right? Would you do that? In a second. In a second, you do it, and that's what happens. So how does the evil inclination stop us from giving charity? Right? So what does he say? He says, "Are you crazy? Too good to be true. You're gonna get." Right, you're going to get the world to come for the money you're giving away. Right.
The here and
Right. The here and the now. What are you getting now? Right. That's exactly what happens. Right, and we know it's false, and yet we do it anyway. So most of it, you really have to ask the psychologist how it works, but it's truly amazing. It's an amazing way that the world works.
If somebody studies Torah, does good things, good deeds, everything, but he doesn't give charity.
He does.
He doesn't.
He does. That's
Does
part
that
of
mean
being.
that he's not going to be accepted up there?
Okay, let me tell you something. I want to tell you something very clear. I do not judge anybody. Period. End of statement. I can't judge anybody. Not only don't judge, I can't judge anybody. Because in order to judge any person, you have to know where the person's coming from. What's their background? How were they raised? Right? Yada yada. Right? There's a million things that go into that. Does anyone know that?
But
No.
you have a right to distance yourself from evil.
No. Distance yourself from evil, sure. But nobody, right? Nobody can judge anybody else. We don't know. I don't know. Right? So I'm not judging anybody. Is giving charity, by the way, is it's an amazing thing. On Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, one of the most famous prayers we say in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, right, is a prayer called Nusana Tokef. Right? And what does it say? Tshuva, Tefillah, Tzedakah, Ma'avirin Esra HaGzera. Tshuva, returning to God, prayer, and charity, avert an evil decree. Okay, they change an evil decree. Now let me ask you all a question. Let me ask you a question that I have. Tshuva, repentance, I get that. That makes sense. It changes an evil decree. Prayer, okay? Man was created for prayer. Charity is on that list. It's like the top 3. Right? What is charity? How does charity fit on that list? Right? You hear what I'm saying? And yet we say repentance, prayer, and charity.
The Torah covers all.
Right? Those 3, right, have a special place to go ahead and to make it that if you're supposed to have an evil decree decreed on you, that it makes it go away. Right? That's what you say, right? Why charity? Right? If I had it, I would say Shabbat, kosher, you know what I'm saying? Right? Mikvah, charity? Well, how does charity make it up to the big 3?
Because you're giving something against what, sometimes against what
Oh.
you...
So I think that's the answer. Is that charity is something that we become so ingrained that's me, right? And now we have to change what that's me is, right? And so therefore it changes who you are. And that's why we struggle with it. We struggle, listen, I deal with a lot of people. People struggle with it.
Do you think couples struggle with it more, or people who are single?
This is very interesting.
Yeah.
It's learning how to give, right, or not being self-centered is something very, very hard. Women usually are better than men. Right? Women have an easy time not being so self-centered as men. Single people that are always single, have always been single, have a very hard time. These are generalities. They're not talking about individuals. In generalities. Because married people at least have to give to each other. So they practice their giving.
Right.
So therefore, it's giving love, it's giving emotion, right? It's giving support. So now giving money is another thing to give, but they've been practicing their giving muscles.
Right.
And that the people who are single, who the whole world revolves around me, and it's all about me, and it's always me, and I have to work about myself, at that point in time, that becomes hard because their whole world is me. Right, and so that's right. That's one of the reasons why we're supposed to be married.
Sure.
Right, is to learn how to become givers.
Sure.
Right, because God in His essence is a giver. Right, that's what God is.
One more last one.
Okay, last question.
One
Go
more
ahead.
last one.
Okay.
Should they give with expecting something in return?
Absolutely. That's not giving. That's called taking.
10 times more.
That's
Boris will tell you about that.
Right. That's called taking. Right. So, but learning how to give is really what it's all about. And practicing that and learning how to do that's what it is.
You expect a trade, you don't give.
So when you give, you actually do it for God, basically, not for expecting thanks for this people.
Correct.
Never.
Right.
You do it for God.
You do
Not
right.
for God.
Not for God. You're doing it for yourself.
For yourself and...
Right. We do it because God told you to do it.
Yes.
You
Right.
give what it's God already. It's
Right.
God's.
Right.
You give His, not yours.
Right.
Yes.
Listen, God doesn't need your money.
No, you do this mitzvah because of the God.
Okay, let me ask a question like this. Let me ask a question. Does God make mistakes?
No.
No.
So why did He give you extra money and the next guy no money?
So this person who's God, it has to be this person.
No. Listen to me. Does God make mistakes?
No.
No.
So why did He give you money and the next guy no money?
Because each have a different lesson to learn.
Ooh, very good.
What?
We each have a different lesson to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so now, right? But if we don't learn that lesson, we're in deep doo-doo.
So the one who got the money must learn
Sorry,
how
excuse
to
my
give.
French.
Not the
What?
money. The one who's got the money has to learn how to give.
Absolutely.
And the one who didn't
Right?
has to learn how to what?
Take.
graciously.
Right? They both have to learn. Right? Each one has to learn how to give and how to take. So important. In marriage, let me ask you a question. Right? In marriage, everyone has to learn how to give. And everyone has to learn how to take. Right? The same thing. Right? And I'll tell you something. I mean, you know the paradigm of that is? The paradigm is the story of Rachel and Leah. Okay? Right, Jacob had married Rachel and Leah. Right, we're supposed to marry Rachel. Laban comes in and tells Leah, right? And Laban comes and says instead of giving Jacob Rachel, he turns around now he's going to go ahead and he's going to give Leah instead. Right? And what does Rachel do? She gives her sister the password. Right? Amazing thing. Amazing, right? Just truly amazing. But the amazement doesn't stop there. There's another level of the amazement that's even greater than that. The Torah tells us a story, like a chapter 2 later, where Leah's son, Leah has 4 sons, right? Rachel has none, has no kids, right? And what happens is that he turns around, and her son brings her dudaim, right? Reuben brings the dudam, which is like an infertility thing, right? She goes and she brings him to her mother. And goes and brings it to Leah. Rachel says this, and Rachel says to Leah, could I please have some of those dudaim? Right? I would love some of those flowers. Right? It's a fertility drug. I haven't not pregnant. Could you please give me some of those fertility? Right? What does Leah then go ahead? What does Leah go ahead and tell? What does Leah go ahead and tell Rachel? Rachel said to Leah, "I would like some dudaim." What does Leah respond to Rachel? Is it enough that you took my husband? You also want to take my dudaim, right? Because what had happened? Leah got married. And then when Jacob, a week later, marries Rachel, Jacob puts his main, he had a bed in each one of their tents, but his main dresser was in Rachel's tent. So Leah says to Rachel, is it enough that you took my husband, you want my dudaim too? I don't understand this verse. This verse to me is one of the most perplexing verses in the entire Torah. Who took whose husband?
Leah to Rachel.
Who pulled the switcheroo?
The father.
Leah, the father. So who took whose husband?
Leah.
Leah took Rachel's husband. How does Leah have the chutzpah to say, is it enough that you took my husband, you want my dudaim?
Exactly.
Hello? Did you not just read the whole story, the 2 chapters before? How you came and you took Rachel's husband?
Right. And gratitude showing there.
Right? Do you understand that? That's one of the most perplexing verses in the entire Torah. And I want to share with you one of the most amazing answers I've heard. I heard this, 18 years ago, maybe 19. Rabbi Matisyahu Solomon, the great mashgiach, the great ethical rabbi in Lakewood, New Jersey, was down here. And he shared the following idea. Listen up. Amazing. He says, every time you do a kindness, he says, it's not a complete kindness. Why? Because if I do you a kindness, you owe me something. Right? That's the expectation. If I do something nice to you, you should do something nice to me. So every time I do a kindness, I'm creating a moral obligation on you back to me.
And I owe you?
And I owe you, really. Right? And basically, by the way, it's a famous thing in marketing. Always give away a free gift. Why give away a free gift? Because you feel now that you owe the person something. Right? Okay, it's a marketing ploy in the world. So every time you do a kindness, it's really not a complete kindness. Because you're creating an IOU. Says the Torah, there is one way to do the greatest kindness in the world. And what's the way to do the greatest kindness in the world?
Anonymously.
Okay, well, anonymously is one. But that's not, because again, that's good. There's one way better.
What?
Do something that someone can't give you anything back.
No, that's called the chesed shalom. It's the kindness of truth, like burying the dead. The person can never repay you.
Right.
but the kids might. So there's one way to do a kindness. It's even better. You do the kindness where you let the other person think that they're doing you the kindness.
How to do that?
Okay? Okay? So it means that they're doing you the kindness. So the Talmud has a case like this. The Talmud says that there was once a husband that got mad at his wife and says, I'm going to divorce you unless you go to the great Rabbi of the generation and spit in his eye 7 times. Okay, crazy. He meant the guy off his rockers. Right. Okay. That's what he says. So the wife says, "Good luck, good riddance." The great rabbi heard about this. He says, "What? I'm going to let them get divorced?" And he knew if he go over there and say, "Spit in my eye 7 times," there's no way in heck she would do that. Spit in the greatest rabbi, the greatest generation, rabbi of the generation. She would spit. She would rather die. So what happened was, he knew where she lived, so he walked in her neighborhood, and he saw her coming. He goes, "Ow! There's something in my eye. Can you please spit in my eye 7 times? It's just spit. Spit again." I don't know, go ahead a little more. Really, like make it really wet. Like go ahead, right. And he got her to spit in his eye 7 times. He goes, oh, that feels so much better. Thank you so much. And off he goes.
He saved the situation.
Right? He took a situation that was tragic, right? And he turned it around, and it was amazing. When you do a kindness.
So how did the husband know?
Well, she went home. I said, spit in his face 7 times. Did exactly what you said. She probably took a selfie when she was doing it. Okay. Right? And there probably were plenty of people around watching this happen. And so who do we learn this from? We learned this from Rachel.
From who?
Rachel.
Oh, okay.
When Rachel saw that Leah was being led, right, to going ahead and was going to be, right, that she was going to be a tremendous embarrassment. She made up a story on the spot that made Leah feel that she was doing the kindness for Rachel. She went ahead and she said, "Listen, I'm supposed to marry Jacob. I just can't marry him, right? But I don't. This just can't work. Listen, do me a favor, step in and marry him." And so Leah goes into this whole thing looking as that she's doing Rachel the favor to marry Jacob. And then 7 days later, Rachel marries him. All of a sudden her problem was resolved. She can marry Jacob, and she steals the husband that she went out on a limb to help her sister. And she lives her life that way. So much so that when her son shows up with the dudaim and Rachel wants him, she says to her, he says, "You're such an ingrate, Rachel. I did a favor for you and then you steal my husband. And you want the dudaim too?" Rachel is the paradigm of taking a situation where you can create a negative way and turned it into a positive way. Amazing. Isn't it amazing? It's an amazing idea of giving. Right? And us learning how to give. And us learning how to do it in a way that's respectful of the people we're giving it to. That is the greatest thing, my friends.
Yeah, not to let
That is the greatest thing. Right? To go ahead and to do it in a way that's why anonymously is so is a very good way of doing it. Right? But to do it in a way of where you go ahead and you don't create that I owe you back.
How do you set up that scenario though? Because the spitting in the eye, and that was
That
good,
was brilliant.
That was good.
Right.
But I mean.
And so each situation, and sometimes you can't, and sometimes you just have to give the money. Right? Go ahead.
At my job, we have something because we are salesmen. We
Right.
have something called role play.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna do a role play with you. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Okay.
And it's all about learning, to be honest.
Okay.
You know, you've been very kind to me all this time, and a lot of times I come to you and eat and everything else.
Right.
And a lot of times I feel guilty, to be honest with you. I don't know
Right.
how to pay it back. I feel like I feel like I'm taking something away from you.
Right.
On the other hand, every time I come to you, you always thank us for coming to you.
Right.
That's the fine part.
There's a reason for that.
One second.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have somebody where I stay, and you know somebody's there, I make them dinner. I try to do your job to them.
Right.
But how can I be better at this? How can I change myself to be giving and not to expecting and practice on myself at all times?
Okay, so that's very good. So let me tell you what I try to do. Okay, I'll tell you what I try to do.
It's not easy. It's how it immediately gets to you.
Right. No. So let me tell you. We have to stop measuring ourselves against other people. Okay, everyone is unique, everyone is different, and everyone has their job in this world. God created each and every one of us with our own unique mission. And the problem is, we always think we need somebody else's mission. I think I need Warren Buffett's mission. No, really. I have $75 billion. I could do a lot of good with it. I don't know, after today or after this week, I'm not sure how much is left. But I could do, right? I could do a lot of good things with his money. And you know what? That is the evil inclination.
Yeah.
You know why? Because if I was supposed to have Warren Buffett's position,
You would.
I would have it. I have a very simple mission. Right? My mission is to do what God wants me to do.
Right.
How do I know what God wants me to do? I look at my toolbox, and I look at the tools that I have, and I say, okay, what am I supposed to do? Right? What's my job? Don't worry about other people's job. Worry about my job. Right? That's what is my job? My job is to teach people Torah. Right? My job is to help people come closer to God. That's my job. Right? And everyone does their job. Right? That's how we all have jobs. And so understanding what my job is in this world and understanding what I need to do, that's really what life is all about.
Well, it makes me feel guilty.
Of what?
Taking something away from you.
Oh, no, so you're not taking anything away from me. If you wouldn't come, that would mean I wouldn't be able to do my job. So I have a job to do. Right? So I'm doing my job. God willing, Yimretz Hashem, you'll get married, and you'll have your own home, and you'll be able to invite people in, and you'll be able to do the same thing.
So don't ever feel guilty.
Not guilty. Guilty is guilt is not a Jewish value. Sorry, Jewish moms.
This is appropriate sometimes.
No. Okay.
No.
The only reason that guilt is good at all is if it helps us motivate to do something better. Okay?
Well, if
but
somebody
just
does something wrong,
yeah.
doesn't mean that the person should feel guilty.
Yeah, if they're going to change it.
But,
Right? Because that will hopefully motivate them to change their behavior.
Rabbi, you
Yeah.
came from a family of rabbis. Or,
I came from a family of butchers. Actually, it's interesting. My father's here. Right? My father was an electrical engineer. Right?
Okay. But I was never told to give away. I was always, as a child, your mom teaches you the way to survive. That's the job.
Right.
So I thought I'm surviving.
Right.
Doing something, but
Right.
but now it's hard for me to give back.
Right. So that you were handicapped.
And I'm trying.
Right. No. Right. And so you have to practice. What I would tell you is, and then it's up. Something people ask me: is it better to give charity at once or to break it up into daily, weekly, right? So I tell people it's like this: you have to practice your charity muscles. Okay, you have to practice your giving muscles, and whatever it is, it's 50 cents, it's a quarter, it's $1, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? You have to practice giving. Right? Not only with money, you practice giving with your time. Right? By practicing giving and helping, you strengthen your giving muscles. And again, it's fascinating. I'll tell you one question I always had which I really think that
Can I
this
just
is.
say something? The way the Etzahara gets to him to give away,
Yeah.
he also Etzahara gets to him to take away.
Right.
It's very hard to take.
You're right, no, absolutely. So I'll tell you something fascinating. A question I always had. Every animal, when it gives birth, how soon is the baby animal ready to be on its own?
Oh, within seconds sometimes.
Instantaneous.
Yeah.
Right?
Except for human babies.
Human babies. A human
Very
baby
dependent.
would probably need
20 years.
5. it's getting longer and longer. Right? But certainly 5-10 years, right? Right? A baby couldn't survive. Baby would die.
Right.
So why does God make it that human babies are born with
To teach us.
that we would die for many years if we didn't have help? And when the animals, he manages to make it that they become instantaneously survivable. So I'd like to suggest the following answer. The Torah says when a human child is born, he gets his evil inclination as he's being born. Okay? As he's being born, we'll see it actually, it's coming up. Right? It's right actually the next page. Right? It's when the evil inclination is when the baby is born. When does he get his good inclination?
Oh God.
No. So he gets his good inclination. If he's a girl, it's when she's 12. And it's a boy when she turns 13.
I mean,
So
evil inclination.
Evil inclination,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
what-
No. The evil inclination is at birth. The good inclination, for 12 for a girl, 13 for a boy.
Right.
That makes a really sweet 5-year-olds really nasty 15-year-olds.
Right.
How does that work?
So very, so very.
If he doesn't have
Well,
that,
so first
I've
question.
had some nasty 5-year-olds too, but I may have middle of 5.
Right. No. So the answer is that the child's good inclination is their parents. That's why the parents are responsible for the sins.
Discipline. So they know.
Right.
Okay.
So, but what I say is like
There's
this.
consequences. They're not doing it because they're good. They're doing it because they were in trouble.
Right. God goes ahead, and God creates a situation where we need to take for the first 5 years of our life, and we spend the next 115 years trying to unlearn the process of taking and learn to become givers. And when it says, right, we're born with the evil inclination, it means that we're born with the inclination to take. A baby, diaper is what? 6 months old, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Teething.
What is teething? What does the baby do? Starts crying. Now listen. Explain to the 6-month-old kid, your mother is exhausted, just fell into bed. And right, like have a little rachmanis on your mother, right? Have a little rachmanis. And what do we do? What does the baby do?
Starts crying.
Starts crying, continues crying. Why? Because the baby is self-centered. It's all about the baby. And if I'm wet, gosh darn it, my mom's not going to sleep until I got a dry diaper on. And we learn to be self-centered. And the problem is, I've met many 40-year-olds that haven't grown out of that. Right? But that's what happens. Right? We go through that. And that's what I think when it says that we're born with evil inclination, that means that we're born with the inclination to take, to be takers. And then we have to spend the rest of our life learning how not to be a taker, but learn to be a giver. Because at the end of the day, God is the paradigm of being a giver. And our job is to emulate God. And we have to learn how to become givers like God. And if we don't become God-like, we become miserable people. And so the more we can learn to be givers and not to be takers, the more we can emulate God, the greater we become. And our job in this world is to become great. But Warren Buffett's not my example of greatness.
Is he miserable?
What?
Is he miserable?
No. Warren Buffett's
I'm not-
he's a nice guy.
I'm putting him in a spot.
Yeah, no. My goal is to become great, like the great rabbis. Right? To learn to become great like them. That's my goal.
They can take it with them, more of it can't.
Right. They're taking nothing. It's an amazing thing. It's just amazing to understand. But that's our job in this world. Is we have to get out of being this self-centered, right, about a me, and have to learn to become a giver, in whatever capacity. Man, it's not just about money. It's about time. It's about acting with people. Right? You know a person who's lonely. Right? You go and you call them up. You invite them over. You say, hey, I'm going to the movies. Why don't you come with me? And then it's going and caring about other people. Right? That's right. Giving has lots of different components. There are lots of different ways to do that. And the more we're able to do that, the more godly we're able to become, the greater we become. And learning how to become great like God, that's what it's all about. Right? And when we get there, that's greatness. Yeah.
We hear people say most of the time, oh, this guy, he's so generous, she's generous. So what is, how we define generosity versus charity? A generous person, how we define a generous person?
How would I define a generous person? How does the world define a generous person?
Yeah, the world, or
the world.
Rabbi.
And how would I define a generous
person?
So to me, is that, somebody gave me $1 million. Are they generous?
Not if they have
Depends
20.
on
Depends on how much they have. Right, that's what they have. Right. So being generous is always, it's a very subjective measurement.
Yes.
Right. Meaning that it's somebody who says, what, I know this person, he take my last dollar. Obviously, but go ahead, take it, or do it. Mm-hmm. Right, or it's going ahead and saying, I know this person is feeling bad. I'm going to go help that person out. Right, being being generous is going above what the expectations are. Mm-hmm. Right, that's right. That's really how I would look at it. Right, and learning to do that. Right, and again, and who's the paradigm of this? God. Right, how much does God give us?
Everything.
Right, it's in an nth degree. Endless. Right, it's endless. Right, and sometimes we get
more than we deserve.
Well, all the time we get more than we deserve. Right, but we get put into a place where there's so much. God is so kind, and that we try to minimize it because we don't want to owe him anything. Oh, that's coming to me. Oh, that I did myself. Right. Oh, that right.
So it's not about giving the surplus, right? Like let's say I have $100, right? Mm-hmm. And then and I was planning to do something with the $100, and that's what I got. And then suddenly I came, with the guy that
you come across a poor person.
A poor person that she didn't ask me anything, but I felt that he needs something that I can do. Just with the $100 or the $75 and do something with that person.
Right. So that's generous.
That's generous.
Right. It's doing more than doing more than what I'm required. Right. Because we are required. Right. The Torah gives us guidelines of what it is. And
someone asked me, if we are good Jews and do all the mitzvot and everything, how come there are some poor people that are Jewish and they're doing everything else great, and look at the Gentiles and there are so many multi-billionaires and rich people. So I told them, you know what? They're good in giving charity. Look at them. They go to the church. They give their time, they give money, they're good in giving charity. They're just good. They cannot deny it.
Yeah.
And so you should know, by the way, the Jews in America
give more money.
give way over a percentage of property we out anybody.
Yeah.
Right, but the answer, but I try not to look at it from a global perspective. I try to look at it from a personal perspective. Right. Don't worry about what everyone else is giving. Right? Worry about how much I'm giving. You know what I'm saying, right? Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? Right? Or if I know I'm not doing the right thing because I grew up one way. How do I get to the place where I'm doing what I should be doing? Right? Meaning that, and that's with everything. Right? It's with our actions. Right? It's with everything on looking at am I doing what I need to be doing? Right? And looking at ourselves and trying to be honest. I'll tell you something. It's kind of sad. 25 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, when somebody said, I had something private to tell you, Rabbi. Right?
You were a rabbi?
So no, I wasn't. 40 years ago I wasn't, but I was, I remember growing up. Right? Something private meant something personal in their lives, between them and their spouse. Right? That would be the most private thing a person has. Today everyone's busy talking about it all over the news, all over the TV. Right? You turn on everyone's private lives, they're all over the news. When someone says, Rabbi, I have something private to tell you, you know what it means? They want to tell me something about their money.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the most treasured thing in life is about their money. Right? It's sad. It's sad. Right? It's right. It's sad. Right? And where our values and what we value. Right? And it's learning to become godly. It's really what it's all about.
I have a question for you, and this has been driving me crazy for several months, and now it's on topic, so I actually feel like I can bring it up and not totally be off subject. Okay. I have a problem with this whole concept. I do my best. I always try to do my best to give what I can. I'm not perfect. Right. I got an evil inclination like everybody else, and mine's really big and stuff. And I try to just need a sword to.
Now say lashon hara about yourself.
Right. But here's the thing. I feel like 90% of the effort I make to give in this world is nothing but enabling people that don't need to give it, and then prevents people that could benefit from me from getting anything. And I feel like because I'm so busy enabling this person, giving, but enabling, right? And it's like every taker and every, sucker in the world is like, looks at me as like one big just,
Right.
And then, or I feel like I'm doing the right thing here. It's like my duty to do the right thing in this situation, whether it be big or small, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
And it's just like, every single person or issue or scenario that I try to do my best in, it's always the wrong one. Okay, so it just makes that person worse, or that situation worse, and me worse, and
okay, so we have to learn.
So how do I don't know
we have to learn how to give, so that we're not enabling people, but we're actually helping them.
And how do you know when somebody comes to? I mean, because I don't want to be like. I don't. I need like a book or something, like some kind of like checklist. Like, all right, slow down. Let me look at the list.
Right. So.
Seriously, because I mean, honestly, I'm really basic like that. If you give me a checklist, I'm cool. But other than that, I'm like.
Right. So the answer is that you might not be the qualified person to give. That means there are organizations, right, that are set up to help almost every type of person.
Just scenarios in general. It's like I'm the worst picker in the world.
Right.
It's like, whether it be a cause or whatever. I mean, like I'm.
Right. No. So you have.
Right. I don't mean to be. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm on the wrong side of every issue.
Right. So the answer is that.
I'm not the terrorist.
No. But the answer is, if you see consistently that is happening, then you have to stop. When somebody comes to you, you can go ahead and you can send it to something else. To somebody else,
like a buffer,
right,
or something.
Right.
Talk to my person.
Right.
Okay, so I just say I stop.
Right, outsource it to somebody. Outsource to your charity to make sure that you're giving to the right place and the right people. Okay, let's learn a couple lines before we have to stop. Okay, so we ended off here that Adam is going ahead, and Adam got 10 curses. Right, man got. Don't put it up. Okay, right, and so then we go ahead, and so now we have we're on chapter 3, verse number 20. Okay, right. So they all got their 3 curses. Their curses. Man got 10, woman got 10 curses, and the snake got his curses. Okay, so then we come to verse 20, right? Chapter 3, verse 20, page 19 in the Chumash, right? Sip, you want to read?
The man called his wife's name Eve, because she had become the mother of all the living.
Okay, so what happens? What does verse 20 tell us? Very interesting. The what?
The
The mother of all
named his
living.
wife.
That man named his wife Eve. So let me ask you a question. So before the curse, what was her name?
Isha.
No, Chava is Eve. So she gets the name Chava, she gets the name Eve only after they sin. And only after they get punished. Before they sin, right, what was her name? Isha, woman. So why does she get her name changed from Isha, which means woman, to Chava,
Which means
mother of all living?
Because before she was.
Because what?
Is that when she started having children?
No, she actually had children before this.
Was it when she was attached to Adam that she was?
No.
Maybe that's how we know how the name is affecting our personalities. She had changed. Maybe her purpose in life has changed.
Go ahead. Say that again. Her purpose in life
changed.
had changed. Okay, when she was created, her job was Isha, woman. After the sin, what happens to her? Her job changes. What does her job now become?
Mother.
The mother of all living. Why does her job change? Because before everyone was supposed to live forever. Right?
There was no living.
The mother of all living, she was, right? Everyone was living forever. But now that she brought death to the world, now people are going to die. Right? So now at this point in time, so now she becomes the mother of all living, right? And now her job becomes to bring the next generation into the world. Right? That's right. That's right. Right? That's what takes place. And therefore, she needs a name change. Right? Because before she was Isha, so now she has to turn into Chava. And so now she becomes the mother of all living. Right? To make sure that there's a next generation to go ahead and to, right?
Procreate.
To continue the
What is
work.
Chava's functions were if she wouldn't be seen? Chava.
Chava means the mother of all living.
No, I mean before she.
Before Isha,
Supposed to do.
Isha's job before was to be man's helpmate, right? Right. She was the wingman, right? They were flying in tandem. Then what happened was now that they sinned, so now her name gets changed, right? Right. Her name she gets now changed. She has now to Isha. Instead of Isha, she's called Chava, the mother of all living. And she has to make sure that she brought death to the world. Her job now is to make sure that she brings life to the world.
So she needs to deliver more babies and
to bring life into this world.
So what happened to her instincts as a mother instincts?
Well, again, remember her 10 curses are all about her having children, right? I mean, a lot of them, right? Right. Before she didn't have 9 months of pregnancy. Now she has 9 months of pregnancy. Right, the whole list of things. Right, she now becomes intertwined with the kid's life. Right, a mother has more. Right, is always tied more to the kids than the father. Right, the kid does something wrong. The mother has a meltdown. Her whole life is collapsing. The father says, "Smack the kid and move on." Right, just go ahead. Right. Punish the kid. Right, and then move on with life. Right. Now, why are you getting some bent out of shit? The mother's sad for a week. You say, hello.
So before the scene, the children were born right away.
Right.
And they were born like
babies.
Like a babies.
Yeah.
And then they grew up in the same rate as after the scene they were growing up.
Yes. Let's.
But they liked, right?
So it took years for them to grow up, even before the scene, right?
Yeah.
But they were.
Born right away. Yeah. There was no 9 months of pregnancy. Right. There was no 9 months of pregnancy. And 9 months of pregnancy is one of the curses.
Like a little lighting in the garden, right? But they know like a human with
Adam, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
when they brought the babies there, the baby should be like
right. But little, right? There were children.
Reflections and
yeah. Okay, so but now, right? So now she gets her name changed, right? Now she becomes Chava, the mother of all living. Okay, verse 21. Okay. You know what? Kenny, you want to read?
Sure. And Hashem God made for Adam and his wife garments of skin, and he clothed them.
Okay, so what happens? What does God do now?
clothe them.
Covers their sin. Covers
He
their
changes
shame.
their physical form.
He changed the physical form with what?
So
The
that
skin.
instead of having this translucent covering, now they've got human skin. And then he gives them clothing as well.
Why does he give them clothing?
Because they
they're
understood
exposed.
that they were exposed.
They
Well, right,
understood
because
that
then
they were
why?
exposed.
Because remember, before then they were just a light.
Right.
What happened was now their physical body became much more much more physical, which means that it clouded their light, it covered up their light.
Right.
So any time that a man and woman looked at themselves and they saw their physical hand,
Right.
right, it was quite an embarrassment. Why?
They lost their spirit.
It meant that I'm physical. I lost my spiritual greatness. Now has come down. I'm now physical. So what does God do?
Over them.
He makes clothing for them. Now let me ask you a question.
I always thought it was a wedding gift.
if your kid is misbehaving, you have to throw him out of the house. What would you do? You see, I know what I would do. I would take the clothing, I'd walk in their room, I'd throw it on the bed, and say, "Get dressed and get the heck out of my house." Right? I think I'm a quite reasonable fellow. Right? They did something
Yes,
that was
you
so
are.
terrible that I have to throw them out. And then I take the garments and I throw them and say, "Go ahead and get dressed." And what does God do?
That's just the
He
opposite.
makes them.
He gives.
He clothes them. He helps them get dressed. Right? It's like, you ever remember going out when it's snowing? And your mom would take the coat and kind of bundle you up and pull the thing, make tight around you to keep you warm. And how did that make you feel when your mother did that?
Oh, cozy and warm.
Because he loved.
Love.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And God now has to send mankind out from the garden. Why? Because it's no longer best for man to be in the garden.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He clothes them. Not only does he give them the clothing, he dresses them. And he says, "Stay warm for your journey outside."
That's a big protection.
Right? And that's right. God going into bundling up and saying, stay warm, right? Stay cozy. I'm here for you. Make some special soft clothing, right? To go ahead to keep them nice and bundled and warm.
God
Right?
love.
Right? The God goes ahead and does this in a way which he's going ahead and he's saying, stay warm for the journey that's ahead of you. Now, there's another thing about clothing. Why do we wear clothing?
Cover our nakedness.
Because it'll be cold if you don't.
It might be disgusting.
Why do we wear clothing?
Modesty.
Clothing is meant to elevate us. Right? Okay, clothing is meant as a way to make us more refined. Right? That's why God gave us clothing. Because of that, you always want to wear clothing that will make God proud of the way that you dress. Right? Somehow, in our generation, right, people think that the clothing that we have, right, the more revealing it is, or the more tight-fitting it is, or the more splashy, whatever it is, right? That's really that's cool clothing.
Yeah.
Right? And what we forget is, when God gave us clothing, where else does God give us clothing, by the way? Where else in the Torah does God give us clothing?
In the desert.
In the desert, where?
The wilderness.
When left Egypt, we took clothing with us.
Yeah, but
That whole part you're
clothing
for it.
expanded with them.
And then the clothing during the desert, God kept, right? God made it that it expanded with us. So one of the miracles that took place.
Okay.
But where else does God give man clothing?
Trying to think.
The first Mishkan or something?
Go ahead.
First Mishkan?
Building the tabernacle. Right? The Kohanim, the priests, are given garments by God.
Oh, they don't make
you mean
them
the
up.
breast?
You
No,
know?
no. God gives us the instructions on how to make it.
Just to let you know,
So that-
Yeah.
all the years I studied,
Yeah.
it's the only thing I never studied. I just came from him.
Right. So God goes ahead and God gives the Kohanim clothing. And why does He give the Kohanim clothing? What's the job of the Kohanim having clothing?
To
Elevate.
differentiate them, to make them
So it
special.
says lechavod uletiferes, for honor and for glory. Right? Clothing we get is from God, is meant to be honorable and glory.
So they wanted to honor God and they would put those plating on and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
wear
yeah, yeah.
long clothes. It has
Sure.
to be certain,
Absolutely.
just like the
Right.
Torah.
Yeah, sure.
Right, Rabbi, that's a good example. For instance, in the French culture, society, right?
Yeah.
They teach you how to dress up properly. Like if you invite me to come to your house, right?
Right.
And then is it disrespectful for me to come very casual, and then it's a part of the culture, and I have to be respectful to you to dress up properly.
Right.
So it goes in the French culture. You might have a master degree, and Boris will have like some GED, and then you have the job, and then when you
What did you
No. GD is God.
That.
and then when you present to the
It's a slang
interview,
Yeah.
you dress. He dressed proper way,
Right,
right?
right.
And then you just wear something because he's the one who's gonna get the job
Right.
in the French culture.
Right.
And so it's a common thing for us, like people say, why you dress like this and that? If your parent, somebody report you from the, saw you in downtown and you just get this little shirt and they will call you, is your parent know that you dress like this? And then they call your parent and tell them, you're in a bigger trouble because you dishonored them.
Clothing are
Yeah.
meant for honor and for glory, right? They're meant to elevate us, not debase us.
Right.
And learning how to be elevated with our clothing.
So before the sin, we just could run around. They would run around just.
Without clothing, why?
Clothing, why? Because
They didn't need them. You saw light. When you saw Adam, what did you see when you saw Adam walking?
It's translucent.
You saw light, right? You saw this bright light. You probably had to put on, you probably put on shades over your eyes, right, in order not to get blinded.
Is that like Moses after he came down?
And it was like Moses, that's right. When Moses got that light,
Right.
the Jewish people couldn't look at him,
Look at him.
Right.
right? And that's exactly what happens.
Right.
Oh, so the light was like he became like Adam.
Ooh. The entire Jewish people became like Adam.
Oh, wow.
At Mount
They
Sinai,
all did?
when we came to Mount Sinai and accepted the Torah,
Right.
we became like Adam before the sin.
Right.
How long did we last though?
40 days. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. 40 days we made it, and then bam, then down
So
went.
everybody was.
Or like
General, high school diploma.
Everybody, yeah, nobody died. We became like Adam before the sin.
The university diploma at least.
Yeah.
In verse 19, where it says, "For you are dust, and to dust you shall
Shall
return."
return.
What about people who get cremated? Will their souls go to heaven?
Okay. So like
And
this,
what about, God forbid, the Jews that were burned
right in the Holocaust.
in the Holocaust?
Right,
Will
okay.
their souls go to
Absolutely,
heaven?
absolutely.
Okay, what about the goyim that just love cremation?
So
what
okay,
about
okay.
them? Do their
So,
souls go to heaven?
I don't think about non-Jews. I'll talk about Jews. I have a degree in Jews, not non-Jews. Okay, so let me tell you what happens. Right? On my GD, right? so what happens is like this. Our soul, our bodies do not belong to us.
Right.
Okay, they were on the Lend-Lease program for 120 years. Okay, it means we have our bodies, right? God gave them to us down here for our soul to live in, and our job is to have them and to take care of them, right? And to return them to Him the way He gave them to us. Right?
If
So-
when people are aged and the time is
Yeah,
passing
time.
away, so this is
Death is the separation of the soul and the body.
right.
The body does not belong to us, and God says, I do not want you to burn it. God says, I want you, right? For this verse, right? He said, I want you to put it into the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and I want the body to be buried.
Tattoos?
What? And that's also right. It's also white, and that's what's have tattoos. Right?
Or
Because
earrings or
no. So well again. So like all those body piercings, etc. All the same things. Our bodies do not belong to us. Okay, let's get this straight. Our bodies are not ours. Okay, they belong to God. They belong to God. God says, when you're finished with your body, please recycle, deposit it to the ground, and I'll take care of the rest.
Right.
Okay?
That's
Right?
what
And,
tattoos are.
and that's our job.
How can plastic surgery be on, yet tattoos be off?
Oh, it's very interesting. And what about earrings? Because earrings, one earring is okay. 10 earrings, maybe not. Right? Okay, so all those questions.
That's tacky anyways with the 10.
Well, you think it is, but the person who has them actually thinks they look beautiful.
Right.
So what is your view of beauty be right and their view of beauty be wrong?
That's true.
Okay, so let me tell you one thing. I really want to go down this route, but let me just tell you one thing.
I'm sorry, why?
No. The people who decide what is beauty, what is not beauty, okay, is certainly not with the fad of the time.
Right.
Okay, and the fad of the time, right, when this body disfigurement and what we call mutilation, etc., those are not good things. Right? So, no, right. So the Torah says clearly not to have a tattoo. Right, and so therefore our bodies don't our bodies don't belong to us. That's the bottom line. That's right. Our bodies are lent to us by God, and our job is to take care of them. Right?
I didn't mean to go off topic.
Right. Okay. No. I did. Okay. No. Okay. So I'm going to finish up chapter 3. Okay. Joyce, you want to read verse 22?
Okay. And Hashem God said, "Behold, man has become like the unique one among us, knowing good and bad. And now, lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever."
And so God says, I got a problem. Right? He's still in the garden. It's a tree of life. Right? He now can eat from the tree of life, and that's it. And he'll live forever. Right? When he already now went down the path of becoming mortal. Guys, verse 23. Go ahead, continue.
So Hashem God banished him from the Garden of Eden to work the soil from which he was taken, and having driven out...
Okay, right. He now has to go work the soil. Right? He can no longer just have his bread growing on a tree. Verse 24.
And having driven out the man, he stationed at the east of the Garden of Eden the cherubim and the flame of the ever-turning sword to guard the way to the tree of life.
So what does God do to man? Kicks him out of the garden and says you can't come back in. And what is he stationed at the entrance of the garden? Two angels. What type of angels? Cherubims, right? Or cherubim. Okay, and what do the cherubim have? What do these cherubims have?
Flames.
What? Swords, flaming swords. Saying don't come. Now we said, what is the tree of life? What do we talk about the tree of life? What does the tree of life mean?
It means that you become more...
Torah.
Oh, Torah. Oh, okay.
Right?
Because that's a new one.
Right? No, that's the Torah. So God says, remember, man, you cannot come into the garden and eat from the Torah. How do you get Torah?
From Rabbi Epstein.
You don't know right away. It's not great.
No. So now I want to show you something super cool. I have to thank Rabbi Lashak for sharing with me this Zohar. It's a Zohar. It's unbelievable. What does God put at the entrance of the gate of the Garden of Eden? Two cherubims. I was in cherubim, bum. And two cherubims with flaming swords. Could somebody please tell me where the next time in the Torah you see these cherubims?
On the ark?
On the ark. And what are they doing on the ark?
Protecting it.
Are they holding swords?
Yes.
Nope.
No, they're not.
No.
They're protecting the tree of life, which is Torah.
No. What are they doing? No, it's in the Holy of Holies. And what are they doing?
They're
facing each other.
Right.
And what are they doing with their wings? They're creating a canopy, right? They coming over a canopy.
The wings of, I get it.
And what are the cherubims telling us?
God.
If you want to know the tree of life, don't go searching the world for the tree of life. Because you can't just go and pick and eat from the tree of life. You want the tree of life. come, enter into the ark, underneath our wings that are a canopy, and come study the Torah. And that's the way you get to the tree of life.
It's beautiful.
Right? And that's why you see that these cherubims here, they're mentioned, flaming swords, the next time they're mentioned, right, is down at the end of Exodus. Right? But this time, instead of flaming swords, they have their wings creating a canopy, an entranceway, saying, come and study Torah.
Just the same with the chuppah.
The same with the chuppah, right? That's what they did. They were right? The chuppah, right, is sort of, it's an entranceway. They're saying, right, this is the entranceway to coming to becoming God, to understanding the tree of life.
Okay, so Adam was the last person who saw Garden of Eden.
Yep.
So when I die, I don't see Garden of Eden.
No. So when you die, your soul goes to Gan
He
Eden.
was pushed out. That's it.
No. So this is the Garden of Eden over here is a physical
I'm
place.
paying for his punishment anyway.
You are, but the only reason you're here is because of him. And what is your job in this world?
To do what I'm supposed
To
do.
to rectify the sin of Adam, to perfect the soul, the little piece of a soul that you have.
So how come this soul keeps coming back until it ends?
Because we keep on forgetting that. All right.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
one and last question, like he
Yeah,
said.
good. Okay.
The cremation is prohibited in
Jewish law. Yeah. Yes.
So in the Orthodox and
Autopsy also forbidden, right?
Oh yeah.
Cremation and
Autopsy. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Anything
So,
to desecrate the body,
the body.
unless there's another mitzvah that would be in conflict with them, then you would have to maybe do that.
So the Orthodox never done that.
No. It's not our body.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's stealing from God.
You know,
Bad news.
There's a picture, a very famous picture, Holocaust picture.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a rabbi. His last day,
Right.
and he has a tefillin on, and you see a bunch of bodies next to him,
Right.
and he's praying.
Right.
I'm sure
Right.
when he passed away, I'm sure they also,
Yeah.
God forbid,
Yeah.
buried him and everything.
Right.
So, what kind of credit does he get?
He gave his life sanctifying God's name. He goes straight to the world to come. He
Even
actually
though
gets
he's
to get out of jail free
burned,
card. Goes to go collect $400. It's
Even
like
though
it's $200. And then,
even though he's
we used to
burned-
play for land and go. You get
Yes.
400. What?
Even though he's burned,
Yeah, no, of course. He had no control. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. He's a martyr. A martyr. I'll tell you a story about martyrship, and with this will end. There's a great story that I think either the Taz or the Bach, one of the great commentators on the Shulchan Aruch, used to study with an angel every night. God sent him an angel to study with.
Which angel?
An angel. And what happened was, probably Micah. And what happened was, they were studying the laws of sanctifying God's name. And he saw how great and awesome it is to die sanctifying God's name. And he says, please ask God that I want to die sanctifying God's name. Okay? So the angel goes up. The next night the angel comes back and says, I have a message from God for you. I don't want you dying sanctifying my name. I want you living sanctifying my name. I want you to sanctify my name with your life when you live it. And that's really our job in this world, is to remember that. Adam and Eve in the garden, we had everything we needed. And what happens? We mess up, right? We fail. And what does God do? God says, I'm going to kick you out. And your job is to now rectify, is to go through the world, and to go through this world, sanctifying God's name. Everyone have a lovely evening.
Adam would have stayed in the garden if he would be refused to eat the fruit.